Lu Mengnian was the child bridegroom my father bought to ward off bad luck for me. He was good-looking, and I had been pestering him since I was little. I even took advantage of my status to do whatever I wanted to him, until one day, I suddenly saw dense words floating in the air. Can this vicious supporting female character have some self-respect and stop pestering the male lead? Can't she see how disgusted he is every time he sees her, his face turning cold? She even humiliated the male and female leads like that. No wonder, once the male lead returned to the capital and regained his identity as the crown prince, he couldn't wait to cut all ties with the Xie family. I'm not smart enough to understand. I wanted to go ask Lu Mengnian, but unexpectedly, I overheard his conversation with his subordinate. Should we inform the Xie family of your identity before your highness returns to the capital? No need to say more. Lu Mengnian lowered his gaze. His expression indifferent. Grant them 10,000 taels of gold, and I shall have no further ties with the Xie family. So I realized it belatedly. It turns out Lu Mengnian is the male lead, and I am that vicious female supporting character who is resented by the male lead and had her entire family wiped out. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. I still have Lu Mengnian's jade pendant clutched in my hand. That was something he had worn since childhood and treasured dearly. I don't know why it fell into the flower soil today, and it was stepped on a few times. It pained me to see it. After carefully wiping it clean, I went to return it to Lu Mengnian. I also thought I'd take the opportunity to claim some credit. But I never expected to overhear this conversation when I arrived. Who's there? Before I could even react, the man in black standing in front of Lu Mengnian suddenly shouted a low, cautious warning. The long sword in hand was drawn in response. My body froze. I thought my eavesdropping had been discovered. Just as I hesitated and was about to step out, someone moved faster than I did. I didn't mean to. Sang Yao limped out from behind the stone hill, covered in dust and dirt. Her delicate face was full of guilt. I just wanted to come and thank young Master Lu. And, young Master Lu, don't worry, I will definitely help you find the jade pendant. She declared to Lu Mengnian with conviction, her eyes sparkling. As soon as Sang Yao appeared, those characters changed even faster. The sunshine female lead and the gloomy male lead are the perfect match. One is a cousin living under someone else's roof. The other is a child groom forced into a marriage to bring luck. Oh, how the Xie family torments the main couple. They truly deserve to die. It's just a mere jade pendant. If you smile, female lead. The male lead would give his life for you. These words that appeared out of thin air didn't seem to notice my presence. Soon, I learned the truth about the lost jade pendant. It turned out that Sang Yao was injured by a stray cat in the courtyard. Lu Mengnian protected Sang Yao in the midst of the chaos. A jade pendant was accidentally lost. I felt a pang of distress in my heart. I couldn't help but argue with those words. Although I don't like Sang Yao, I have never insulted her. And I have known Lu Mengnian for many years. I have seen with my own eyes how important that jade pendant is to him. He has worn it since childhood and never takes it off. Lu Mengnian also values his life, because he once said he still has very important things to do. How could he easily give his life to someone else? None of these statements are correct. No matter, a cold voice interrupted my train of thought. I looked up in bewilderment. From this angle, I could just see Lu Mengnian looking down at Sang Yao. He seemed to let out a soft sigh. Have you taken care of your wound first? No, not yet. Sang Yao blushed in embarrassment, but soon, her expression turned conflicted. Gritting her teeth, she added, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation. But, Lord Lu, could you take me with you when you return to the capital? I can pay you. Is Sang Yao going back to the capital with Lu Mengnian? I froze, for some reason. My heart suddenly started racing uncontrollably. I instinctively looked at Lu Mengnian's reaction. I kept reassuring myself that Lu Mengnian would definitely not agree. He didn't even want to tell me, who had grown up with him since childhood, about his return to the capital. How could he possibly agree to bring Sang Yao, an outsider who had just arrived at the Xie residence, back to the capital with him? Until I saw the man in black trying to lay a hand on Sang Yao. But Lu Mengnian raised his hand to stop him. He paused, as if letting out a light laugh. His voice lost a trace of its usual chill. All right, I couldn't make out the expression on his face, yet I could hear him agreeing to Sang Yao's request. So, a sense of loss and sadness, mixed with a deep ache, slowly crushed my heart. I instinctively fled in embarrassment, and then, in a daze, I thought, it turns out those words were all true. Lu Mengnian is my child bridegroom for a wedding meant to cure my illness. I was frail and sickly as a child. In the end, my father listened to the advice of a wandering Taoist priest and bought Lu Mengnian from a human trafficker. There's actually someone better. Father always spoke with a sour tone when mentioning this. But you just had to set your eyes on that boy who was beaten half to death, clinging to him and refusing to let go, even rushing over to take a whiplash for him. I've never seen you cry so hard when I got hurt. Well, that's because Alu is better looking than you. Dad, I said it with full confidence. Father was so angry that he glared at me with his mustache bristling. But my fondness for Lu Mengnian was almost common knowledge. Perhaps the wedding to dispel bad luck really worked. Ever since Lu Mengnian came to the Xie family, my health has been getting better day by day. That's why father temporarily gave up the idea of finding another husband for me. I originally thought it wouldn't be long before we would naturally get married, until I saw those words. Even now, I hear that Lu Mengnian is returning to the capital, yet he refuses to say a word to me or father. Yet, he was willing to take Sang Yao Yao and leave together. I don't know how I made it back to my room, still clutching the jade pendant tightly in my hand. The words that had appeared out of thin air still hadn't vanished, mostly praising how well-matched Sang Yao Yao and Lu Mengnian are, and how shamelessly I insisted on breaking up the main couple. I felt wronged watching it, but the more I watched, the more chilled I felt to the bone, because they said Lu Mengnian actually detested me deeply and loathed everything about the Xie family. So after he returned to the capital and regained his status, he severed all ties with the Xie family. He even stood by and did nothing when the Xie family faced extermination, leaving me to be humiliated and die. This is the retribution for the villainess. But it shouldn't be like this. Lu Mengnian never said he disliked me. He clearly, Ah Ying said you're in a bad mood today. A hand with distinct knuckles suddenly appeared in his line of sight. Lu Mengnian's indifferent voice came from above. Would you like me to accompany you for a walk outside? Lost in thought while sitting on the couch earlier. I didn't even notice when Lu Mengnian came in. Startled, I instinctively looked up, and met directly with those deep, dark eyes. Seeing me staring at him in a daze without speaking, Lu Mengnian frowned almost imperceptibly. What's wrong? He was truly good-looking. Yet even when saying such words that carried a tone of concern, Lu Mengnian's deep-set eyes and brows remained as calm as ever. The words floating in the air changed again. I'm so done with this. Why does this supporting female character have to cause so much trouble? The male and female leads were just discussing their return to the capital, but because she's in a bad mood, the male lead is forced to come and comfort her. So annoying. So, is Lu Mengnian actually angry at me for disturbing them? I averted my gaze, my heart aching intensely. Nothing's wrong. I shook my head, forcing a faint smile. If you have something to attend to, there's no need to come and keep me company. I hadn't noticed it before. Now that I've been reminded, I suddenly realize that Lu Mengnian has indeed always been particularly cold when he sees me. Even when he is close, he maintains a certain distance. I originally thought it was just his nature and that he strictly adhered to etiquette, but clearly, not long ago, he was smiling at Sang Yao Yao, still so gentle, I thought to myself, forcing down that uncomfortable feeling. I didn't even notice how much deeper the crease between Lu Mengnian's brows became when those words came out. He pursed his lips. Just as I was about to speak, my gaze suddenly froze on a certain spot on the bed. I followed the gaze. In a fluster, I quickly grabbed the item and hid it behind my back, my face flushing with heat. It was the sachet I had half embroidered. It was originally meant for Lu Mengnian, but my hands are clumsy. The mandarin ducks I embroidered turned into pheasants. It's truly too embarrassing to show. I also remembered the 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix embroidery that Sang Yao Yao had shown earlier. That day, I clearly saw a flicker of admiration in Lu Mengnian's eyes. That's why I stubbornly wanted to embroider a sachet to give him. But it seems even more impossible to send it out now. I concealed the disappointment in my eyes and hid the object further behind me. Pretending to be calm, he said, "It's not a delicate piece. Just something I embroidered for fun." Fortunately, Lu Mengnian only gave a brief glance before looking away, gave a soft hum in response. He spoke again, as if casually, "I'll be free the day after tomorrow." The day after tomorrow, I froze. Then I remembered that the day after tomorrow is the Lantern Festival. A while ago, I kept pestering Lu Mengnian to set aside this day to spend with me. Originally, I had planned to present my lantern and sachet that day. And after formally expressing my feelings to Lu Mengnian, we could then discuss the wedding date. At that time, I only thought Lu Mengnian was my child groom. He is certainly going to marry me. I never once considered whether Lu Mengnian had feelings for me. But now, everything is different. I took a deep breath. The day after tomorrow, The crisp sound of something shattering on the floor cut me off. Lu Mengnian lowered his gaze and suddenly spoke. How did my jade pendant end up with you? His voice betrayed no emotion. In the past, Lu Mengnian had cared deeply about this jade pendant. When I was young, I often got angry at inanimate objects, feeling that Lu Mengnian cared more about this jade pendant, so I secretly hid the jade pendant. I had intended to scare Lu Mengnian, but I never expected him to get so angry that day. He coldly pressed me to reveal where the jade pendant was. I was terrified, and it just so happened that my father witnessed this scene. My father becomes especially unreasonable whenever it involves me, so clearly, it was my fault. He severely punished Lu Mengnian, yet even so, Lu Mengnian stubbornly refused to apologize to me first. Even when beaten unconscious, he still clutched that jade pendant tightly in his hand. Since then, I haven't dared to touch that jade pendant lightly. Hearing Lu Mengnian's words, I instinctively picked it up and handed it to him. I added, I found it earlier in the courtyard and was planning to return it. The words I was about to say suddenly stopped. To my surprise, I noticed that as Lu Mengnian took the jade pendant, the characters that had been constantly changing moments ago vanished instantly. Is it only when I hold the jade pendant that I can see it? To test this theory, the hand I had just withdrawn reached out again. Unexpectedly, I ended up grabbing Lu Mengnian's fingertips. His body instantly stiffened. The shadow in the eyes gradually deepened. I didn't have time to notice Lu Mengnian's reaction. Only when I saw those words reappear did I finally breathe a sigh of relief. It really was only by holding the jade pendant that one could see these mysteriously appearing words. But this is Lu Mengnian's jade pendant. I'm feeling a bit worried. I had hoped to rely on these words to understand why my Xie family was annihilated and to see if I could find a way to avoid the disaster. Although I have feelings for Lu Mengnian, in the end, my father and the Xie family are more important to me, so I gritted my teeth and spoke hesitantly. Lu, may I ask for this jade pendant? Afraid that Lu Mengnian would refuse without a second thought. Before he could speak, I quickly added, just a few days. I'll only borrow it for a few days. Lu Mengnian remained silent. His gaze simply fell upon my hand that was still holding his finger, light and airy. I consciously let go of his hand. No sooner had my hand withdrawn than he caught my wrist through the fabric, his grip firm. Do you want my jade pendant? Lu Mengnian lowered his gaze to me, his eyes deep and serene. My wrist seemed to be held gently, yet securely, yet it carried a subtle sense of being inescapable. I didn't notice. Just gritted my teeth and hummed in agreement. Lu Mengnian fell silent again. Just when I thought he was unwilling, something was suddenly thrust into his hand. His fingers paused as they brushed against it, then he calmly withdrew his hand. His voice was deep and low. Then you hold it well. I was astonished. It might not be an illusion. I always felt that when Lu Mengnian said this, it seemed to carry a hidden meaning. Just as I was about to speak, I caught a glimpse of the words in mid-air changing again. Wait, how could the male lead give such an important identity jade pendant to the vicious female supporting character? Identity jade pendant. Upon learning the truth, I suddenly felt the object in my hand become extremely hot to the touch, and somewhat awkward. This is the Crown Prince's token, until a few more lines of text popped up. Anyway, the male lead is returning to the capital, so this jade pendant is probably useless now. Besides, he already gave the token of love to the female lead, since the supporting female character wants the pendant. Just let her have it, it saves her from making excuses to keep pestering the male lead, so it really is useless now. No wonder Lu Mengnian is so generous. I understood and unconsciously clenched my fingers. After suppressing that bitterness, I smiled at Lu Mengnian. Thank you, Lu. The day after tomorrow is the Lantern Festival, and there will be a lantern fair in the evening. Would you like to go and see it, Lu? Lu Mengnian stared at me without blinking. After a long moment, he softly hummed in agreement. The words said that Sang Yao Yao would fall into the water during the Lantern Festival, and because Lu Mengnian was entangled by me and couldn't break free, he failed to save Sang Yao Yao in time. This led to her body being injured and leaving her with lasting health issues. This was also one of the reasons why Lu Mengnian held such deep resentment toward me later on. Since that's the case, let the two of them go enjoy the Lantern Festival together. It's hard to say. If Lu Mengnian was pleased, he might occasionally remember the Xie family's kindness after returning to the capital, and wouldn't have stood by so indifferently later on. I curled the corner of my mouth and thought, but I also knew it was extremely difficult. To be honest, I originally resented Lu Mengnian. Blame him for his coldness and lack of human warmth. The Xie family saved him, yet he repaid kindness with enmity. It wasn't until I learned that every time I fell ill as a child, My father would severely punish Lu Mengnian, because he believed it was Lu Mengnian's fault for not taking good care of me. So in the harsh winter, the young Lu Mengnian, dressed in thin clothes, was punished by kneeling in the snow. I was not allowed back inside until my fever subsided. If I suffered, he had to suffer along with me. Lu Mengnian had been bought as a child bridegroom to bring good fortune. His status in the household was only slightly better than that of an ordinary servant. And he could have returned to the capital earlier, but he was stopped by my father every time, because my father was worried that if Lu Mengnian left, I would revert to my former sickly and frail state. But I never knew any of this. They all kept it from me. No wonder Lu Mengnian didn't like me. No wonder Sang Yao Yao would scold me with reddened eyes, calling me a disaster who ruined Lu Mengnian. No wonder Lu Mengnian would like Sang Yao Yao. The forced smile could no longer be maintained. I didn't want to know how perfect and deeply affectionate the two looked while out enjoying the Lantern Festival. I simply tossed the jade pendant aside and slumped over the table, staring blankly at the sachet in my hand that I hadn't yet given away. My nose suddenly ached with a sharp sting. I miss my father. In the end, everything my father did to Lu Mengnian was for my sake. It was because of me that he ended up in such a state. When father returns from his trip, I will definitely. Are you crying? The sachet in my hand was suddenly snatched away. The visitor looked him over carefully and suddenly laughed. I see, you were crying because this sachet is so ugly, weren't you? Xiao, Huai, Feng. The earlier sorrowful mood vanished in an instant. I watched the uninvited guest who had climbed over the wall. I was so angry that I gritted my teeth. Xiao Huifeng has lived next door to me since childhood. We have a good relationship. Earlier, when I was feeling a bit better, only Xiao Huifeng was willing to take me climbing trees and wading through rivers, but for some reason, he and Lu Mengnian never got along. Xiao Huifeng always said that Lu Mengnian was targeting him, but back then, I was biased toward Lu Mengnian and thought it must be Xiao Huifeng's fault. You heartless girl. Ditching your friends for a man. Every time this happened, Xiao Huifeng would poke my forehead and scold me in frustration. How did he manage to wrap you around his finger like this? If Lu Mengnian ever abandons you, just see how you'll cry then. Lu would never abandon me, I retorted angrily, but I never thought it would now become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When did you return? I snatched the sachet and asked again. Xiao Huifeng loved to travel far and wide. It's been a long time since I last saw him. Just a few days ago, he plopped down and grabbed a pastry from the table to munch on. Then suddenly, he grinned like a fox. Guess who I saw on the street today? I glanced at him and said nothing. Xiao Huifeng narrowed his eyes suspiciously. Do you not care, or do you already know that Lu Mengnian and Sang Yao Yao went together? Zijian, I interrupted Xiao Huifeng, speaking with utmost seriousness. Lu Mengnian doesn't like me, and he certainly won't marry me. How could he not? No questions allowed. I picked up a pastry and stuffed it into Xiao Huifeng's mouth. My expression irritated. Xiao Huifeng indeed quieted down. But it didn't stay quiet for long. So where did this sachet that made you cry from ugliness come from? Did you make it yourself? After a moment of silence, Xiao Huifeng sighed heavily. Your brother Xiao wasn't wrong about you. You truly aren't cut out for the life of a dutiful wife and mother. Why not wander the world with me and make the 4 seas our home? I glanced at him sideways. Have you discussed this with my father? Xiao Huifeng fell silent. Then, he awkwardly steered the conversation back to the sachet. Forget it. Since someone mistook a pearl for a fish eye, then your brother Xiao, will be the one who recognizes its worth. Rest assured, I will not let down sister Yu's intentions. Xiao Huifeng has always been unreliable, with no filter on his words. I really don't have the heart to explain anything more to him, nor do I know how to explain those words that appeared out of thin air. I simply threw the sachet to him. If you want it, you can have it. Lu Mengnian didn't care, but I couldn't let all my hard work go to waste. But the words had barely left my mouth. I faintly sensed a heavy gaze fixed on me. That gaze was both aggressive and dangerous. It felt unsettling on an instinctive level. I frowned and looked over, suddenly stunned. Lu Mengnian. Lu Mengnian was standing at the courtyard gate, though I hadn't noticed when he arrived. His dark eyes were fixed intently on me, but soon, his gaze seemed to unintentionally sweep over the sachet in Xiao Huifeng's hand. After a pause of a few seconds, it then fell upon the jade pendant that Xiao Huifeng had accidentally knocked to the ground. His eyes gathered with increasingly intense emotions. Like a mountain rain about to fall, there was an indescribable strangeness to this scene. In the end, it was Xiao Huifeng who broke the dead silence with a light scoff. Back already, his slender fingers deliberately hooked the sachet's string and gave it a playful shake. Xiao Huifeng stepped in front of me. smiling at Lu Mengnian with hidden daggers in his expression, truly worthy of the great talent Lu Mengnian, winning the Lantern King so quickly for your beloved. Only then did I notice that Lu Mengnian was holding a lantern in his hand. Master Lu, Sang Yao Yao hurried over from behind, holding up the hem of her skirt. She noticed my gaze had fallen upon that lantern, her expression changed, and she warily shielded the lantern in front of her, as if worried that I might snatch it away with a word. I found it somewhat amusing, but then I suddenly remembered an old incident. The Lantern King of the Lantern Festival can only be claimed after solving all the riddles along the entire street. In previous years, I watched with envy, but I truly lacked the skill to solve the riddles, so I wanted to buy it with money. In the end, I was nearly chased away by the furious vendor. Why can't I just buy it with money? I muttered, quite unconvinced. Didn't he put it out to attract customers? If I buy it earlier, he can go home sooner. How can this person be so inflexible? By the end, there was a hint of anger in my tone. Lu Mengnian, whom I had dragged out with me, listened quietly by my side. After a long while, he suddenly spoke. Do you think everything can be bought with money? Under the lantern-lit tree, the shadows of leaves danced faintly. I couldn't make out the expression on Lu Mengnian's face. When I looked at him in confusion, I heard Lu Mengnian let out a short, light laugh. He said, I'll go get the lantern for you. But didn't you just not guess a single lantern riddle correctly? The words I wanted to say were still stuck in my throat. I suddenly widened my eyes, staring blankly as Lu Mengnian effortlessly solved one lantern riddle after another. In the end, he successfully claimed the prize lantern. The strikingly handsome young man walked toward me unhurriedly, holding the lantern in his hand. Amidst the envious gazes of the crowd, he handed the lantern to me. His lowered eyes resembled the misty mountains after a gentle rain. The wind is picking up, let's head back early. And just like that, I was instantly swept away by delight. I even forgot all the questions I had wanted to ask earlier. My heart was completely immersed in the joy of Lu Mengnian winning the Lantern King for me. I had thought it was a sign of his affection for me, but now, thinking back carefully, Lu Mengnian probably didn't want to pick the lantern for me, so he deliberately hid his skills earlier. Later, he was willing to solve the lantern riddles. It was only because he was afraid I would get angry and take it out on innocent people. Just as those inexplicably appearing words said, in Lu Mengnian's heart, I have always been a willful and domineering, shamelessly clinging to him with a bit of wealth, a spoiled and arrogant young lady. He does not like me, yet, because of my dependent situation, I had to endure everything with patience. At this thought, I pursed my lips, just as I was about to say that I wouldn't compete with Sang Yao Yao. Lu Mengnian came straight toward me, holding a lantern, just like that night a few years ago, but now he stands before me, leaving no gap. An oppressive aura suddenly rushed over me, yet it quickly dissipated the moment he spoke. This year it's Master Chen's turn to make the Lantern King. Didn't you always want a lantern made by him before? Lu Mengnian paused and said softly, do you still like it now? The lantern is exceptionally fine. I fell in love with it at first sight. The pale hand holding the lantern showed veins bulging on its back, as if straining to endure something. Clearly, it was an extremely reluctant gesture. Most likely, it was given to me only to prevent me from taking the chance to make things difficult for Sang Yao Yao. I pursed my lips, thinking I didn't want it either. Of course I like it, but considering Lu Mengnian's status, I forced a smile and accepted it. After admiring it for a few moments, I walked toward Sang Yao Yao. What are you here for? To show off? Sang Yao Yao's tone was stiff, with a hint of hostility in her eyes. I've never really understood where Sang Yao Yao's hostility toward me comes from. My mother and Sang Yao Yao's mother have been close friends since childhood, so upon learning that Sang Yao Yao had lost both parents and was suffering under the harsh treatment of her uncle and aunt, father found a way to bring her back from Jiangnan. Father originally intended to find me a playmate. But Sang Yao Yao rarely showed me a friendly face when others weren't around. Thinking of how well my aunt and uncle had treated me when they were alive, I decided not to take it to heart, but after being met with cold shoulders one too many times, I started to feel displeased myself. Those under me were always quick to shift with the wind. Seeing that I disliked Sang Yao Yao, they naturally became harsh toward her. Once, I happened to witness a group of people sneering and mocking Sang Yao Yao. I used to scold the servants, but unexpectedly, Sang Yao Yao glared at me fiercely and coldly said, "Fake kindness." Before leaving, it seemed as if I had ordered someone to bully her. I was half dead with anger, yet I saw Sang Yao Yao still wearing thin clothes in the harsh winter. I couldn't bring myself to order new clothes made for her, so in the end, I angrily told the maid to give her my old clothes that I no longer wore. Little did I expect that this would become one of the accusations against me for humiliating Sang Yao Yao, but who made her the female lead? I took a deep breath and handed the lantern to Sang Yao Yao. After taking a few reluctant glances, I added, although I like it, I know I shouldn't take what belongs to another. This lantern was originally yours, so I'm returning it to you. I want neither the lantern nor Lu Mengnian anymore. I only wish for my father to be well. I wish for the Xie family to be well. As for anything else, I dare not think too much about it. I didn't look back, naturally. I also didn't notice that when I handed out the lantern, Lu Mengnian's body suddenly stiffened. The chill on his face grew even more intense. Sang Yao Yao was also taken aback. But she quickly became wary. What are you scheming now? This person always thinks I'm out to harm her. So the last bit of reluctance faded away. I sulkily stuffed the lantern into her hand, called for Xiao Huifeng, and decided to go out for a stroll, but Lu Mengnian stopped me. Xie, what are you doing? I turned my head and saw him bending down to pick up the jade pendant from the ground. The dust-covered jade pendant was quietly and meticulously wiped over and over by this person. Only then was it handed to me. You don't want the lantern? In the deep, somber eyes, there was a suppressed emotion, taut as a bowstring. Lu Mengnian asked me softly, don't you want the jade pendant anymore? Of course, the jade pendant was still wanted. I noticed Sang Yao's gaze directed at me. I immediately shook my head and said hurriedly, I didn't take your jade pendant, I only borrowed it from you, and I'll return it once I'm done using it, once I find a way to avoid this disaster. I don't want to have any further entanglement with these so-called male and female protagonists. My hand gripping the jade pendant tightened so hard that my knuckles turned white. Lu Mengnian stared at me blankly, his gaze was vacant, yet it faintly carried a barely noticeable sense of grievance. I didn't notice Lu Mengnian's unusual behavior. She no longer devoted all her attention to Lu Mengnian. At first, it felt a bit unfamiliar. Fortunately, Lu Mengnian was also busy with something. He was nowhere to be seen all day long. I gradually overcame this discomfort as well. Xiao Huifeng was initially pleased to see it happening. It wasn't until I mentioned returning Lu Mengnian's indenture contract to him that this person finally stopped smiling and became more serious. Are you really not fond of it anymore? Have I ever lied to you? I rolled my eyes, feeling annoyed. That's hard to say. Xiao Huifeng leisurely listed my wrongdoings. When you were young, you swindled quite a bit of my silver just to buy books and writing materials for Lu Mengnian, and in the end, you even lied and said it was me who spent all the money on snacks and fun. His expression turned accusatory as he spoke. I was instantly left speechless. This was indeed my fault. My father once found a female tutor to come to our residence for me, but I was mischievous and couldn't sit still. Most of what the tutor said went in one ear and out the other. On the contrary, it was Lu Mengnian, who was dragged along to accompany me a few times, who could answer fluently every time. At that moment, the teacher looked at Lu Mengnian with both pride and regret in his eyes. I didn't notice it at the time. I was simply filled with delight that Lu Mengnian was not only exceptionally handsome but also incredibly intelligent. Others would surely envy me, until I caught Lu Mengnian secretly practicing his calligraphy in the sand tray. A light I had never seen before flickered in his eyes, but it vanished the moment he saw me approaching. The sand tray was kicked apart by the old woman who followed me. She haughtily scolded Lu Mengnian for being too playful, causing her to search for him for a long time. Lu Mengnian remained silent. He just lowered his head, expressionlessly staring at the sand table that had been trampled over and over again. This had already become the norm, father said. Lu Mengnian was just a servant bought to keep me company. It's not right for the master to go looking for a servant. But actually, that day Lu Mengnian was sick, and I allowed him to rest. Yet it was also me who got too caught up in playing and forgot about it. I insisted on having Lu Mengnian come to accompany me. Stop! Seeing the woman about to raise her hand to strike, I quickly shouted to stop her. Lu Mengnian's fair cheeks were still flushed with an unnatural redness. Those dark, deep eyes were just quietly fixed on me. Even if he were to be punished, his face remained numb and calm. I felt guilty and somewhat at a loss under his gaze. Somehow, a sudden inspiration struck me. Whispering, "Is Lu interested in studying?" His dark pupils gathered a glimmer of light, only to fade quickly. Lu Mengnian did not answer, only saying, "What would the young lady like to play this time?" I really don't like Lu Mengnian's lifeless demeanor, so I said, Lu, if you smile for me, I'll let you go read." Alright, it's true, I have never seen Lu Mengnian smile, but that time, I saw him remain silent for a long while. Then he tried to pull the corners of his mouth, stiffly imitating the smiles of those around him. It really didn't look good at all. But I still pestered my father to send Lu Mengnian to the academy to study. Everything was still fine at first. During that time, Lu Mengnian became much closer to me. Sometimes he would even take the initiative to tell me about his classmates and life at the academy, until I started running a high fever again. It was actually because I was being playful and didn't listen to advice, catching a chill from playing in the water. But father blamed all the fault on Lu Mengnian, who wasn't by my side because he had gone to the academy. After I recovered, Lu Mengnian went back to being just like before. He followed me all day long in silence. It was only later that I learned that father had ordered Lu Mengnian to kneel in the courtyard that day. Bit by bit, he personally burned all the books in his room. I knew father was wrong, but I am the least qualified to blame him. I had no choice but to discreetly have someone buy books and send them to Lu Mengnian. But this matter was soon discovered by father. With no money left, I could only resort to tricking Xiao Huifeng out of his silver. I also asked him to secretly find an old scholar to answer Lu Mengnian's questions. Xiao Huifeng still has a pile of IOUs I signed back then, but Lu Mengnian knew nothing about these matters. Back then, he wouldn't even accept the books I sent over. I had no choice but to keep it from him. In fact, there were signs all along. My eyes dimmed for a moment, but I quickly perked up and emphasized, "This time it's for real. I really don't like Lu Mengnian." I said it with absolute certainty. Completely unaware that Xiao Huifeng seemed to casually glance at a spot behind me, the smile in his eyes grew even deeper. Xiao Huifeng hadn't expected to encounter such an interesting situation upon his return, but to be fair, he was on Xieyu's side. If Xieyou really didn't want Lu Mengnian anymore, he would wholeheartedly support it. After all, she was the one he had doted on like a little sister since childhood. But when the long sword pressed against his neck, even drawing a line of blood, Xiao Huifeng still couldn't help but want to cut ties with Xieyou for a while. "Don't you think that's enough?" He glared at the person before him, gritting his teeth, thinking to himself that the guards at the mansion really needed to be replaced. They couldn't even stop a single person. Lu Mengnian remained as concise as ever. "The IOU." Just like that night when he was dragged out of bed in the dead of night, the man only coldly uttered 2 words, "Sachet." Xiao Huifeng froze for a moment before realizing what Lu Mengnian was talking about. "Are you out of your mind?" He couldn't help but curse. That thing is from so many years ago. He naturally didn't think Lu Mengnian intended to repay Xieyu's debt. It was simply because it was an IOU written by Xieyou, and this madman simply wanted to possess everything related to Xieyou. Lu Mengnian remained silent. He only lifted his dark, somber eyes and looked at him quietly. A chill suddenly shot up from his back. Xiao Huifeng ended up cursing and grumbling as he went to find the IOU Xieyou had given him back then. There are 13 in total. God knows how overjoyed he was when he found the last one under the table leg. "That's all of them." Xiao Huifeng threw them to him with a livid face. Lu Mengnian suddenly frowned deeply. He seemed extremely dissatisfied with Xiao Huifeng's rough treatment. He carefully spread out each IOU, smoothed them, folded them neatly, and then wrapped them with a handkerchief for protection. Xiao Huifeng glanced casually and couldn't help but click his tongue in disapproval. If he wasn't mistaken, that corner of the handkerchief alone could cover these dozens of tales of debt. It seems that Girl AU wasn't lying. Lu Mengnian really did find his family in the capital, and his status has become illustrious. What a waste. What a sheer waste. Xiao Huifeng twitched the corner of his mouth, unable to bear watching any longer. But truth be told, this wasn't the first time it had happened. Somehow, every single thing Xieyou gave him would eventually end up in Lu Mengnian's hands. It was all thanks to Lu Mengnian's constant fighting and struggling. At first, Lu Mengnian couldn't beat him and would always end up pinned to the ground, getting a good beating. Later, for some inexplicable reason, it became him who was the one getting beaten up. Youngsters have a lot of temper, feeling that losing the fight was truly embarrassing. It was hard to bring it up. Every time they met, they would just start fighting. But later, Xiao Huifeng began to suspect that something was off, especially since Lu Mengnian's skills were getting better and better. Realizing what had happened, he flew into a rage. "Are you just using me for practice?" At that moment, Lu Mengnian was carefully protecting a stick of candied hawthorn he had snatched. It was given by Xieyou, but it was Xiao Huifeng's silver that was used. Lu Mengnian glanced at Xiao Huifeng lying on the ground upon hearing this. He didn't deny it, just gave a hum of acknowledgement. This made Xiao Huifeng even angrier. He just said it. Xieyou is usually so generous that she wants to give something to anyone she sees. Why didn't Lu Mengnian rob someone else? But only him, Xiao Huifeng said angrily. "If you really want to learn martial arts, you can just find any guard from the Xie residence. They won't teach you," Lu Mengnian said in a flat tone. Xiao Huifeng was taken aback, only then remembering the awkward position this person held in the Xie household. Aren't you afraid of being found out? Lu Mengnian remained silent. At that moment, Xiao Huifeng clicked his tongue and said, "You're only acting this way because Ayu likes you. You've always relied on Ayu's fondness for you." A heavy bag of silver coins was placed in front of him. Xiao Huifeng knew that Lu Mengnian was once again trying to cut off his connection with Xie Yu. He smiled, and when he looked up at the man, a hint of defiance flickered in his eyes. "But now you've heard it too. Ayu said she doesn't like you anymore." He could tell that Xie Yu was serious when he said those words. This girl has been spoiled since she was little, and she never sticks to anything for long. Yet she has liked Lu Mengnian for so many years. In his opinion, it's not worth it. Lu Mengnian is truly a dangerous man, otherwise Uncle Xie wouldn't have repeatedly taken action to suppress him. It's a pity that even a cunning old fox like Uncle Xie misjudged the situation, thinking that a wolf cub, after having its claws and teeth removed and being tamed for years, had truly turned into a dog. But now, the wolf cub has grown new sharp claws and fangs once again. Xiao Huifeng set aside his usual carefree demeanor, revealing a rare hint of killing intent. "I don't know who you really are, but since you've made your choice, stay away from Ayu." That day on the street, he saw it clearly. Amid the bustling crowd during the Lantern Festival, Sang Yaoyao thought she had been protected by Lu Mengnian all along, but little did they know, the person behind the mask had long been replaced. It wasn't until the lanterns were taken down that Lu Mengnian finally appeared. However, there was no need to tell Ayu about these things anymore. After all, to outsiders, it simply looked like Lu Mengnian had enjoyed the Lantern Festival with Sang Yaoyao, and Lu Mengnian was not a good man either. He turned a deaf ear to Xiao Huifeng's warnings and provocations. He carefully tucked the handkerchief away, placing it neatly over his heart, right next to that sachet. Xiao Huifeng instantly broke his composure. "Lu Mengnian, you wouldn't dislike me." Those dark eyes were so heavy it seemed as if not a single ray of light could penetrate them. Xie Yu wasn't there. Lu Mengnian no longer restrained his fierce aura. Glaring darkly at Xiao Huifeng, he said, "Whatever Ayu likes, that's what I'll be. If she no longer likes me, it must be because I've done something wrong, and I'll change it." The wine Xiao Huifeng brought back from Huiqing for me was excellent. Rich and mellow with a subtle fragrance. He said he noticed I've been feeling down lately, so he had someone send this over to cheer me up, thinking that once father returns, I won't be able to drink it anymore. I couldn't resist and had an extra cup. It turned out the wine had quite a kick. By the late night, I was burning up and feeling awful. In my daze, I also felt an overwhelming heaviness on my body. It seemed like someone was softly calling my name by my ear. Are you, my lady, my lady?" What lady or not lady? I'm not even married yet. Annoyed by the noise, I snapped back, "I'm not your wife." The surroundings fell silent instantly. Just when I thought I could finally sleep peacefully, a sudden scalding wetness spread across the back of my hand, but it was soon carefully wiped away. "Ayu is my wife," the person whispered in a pitiful tone, defending themselves. "You said it yourself, my wife can only be you. I once said this to Lu Mengnian. When I was sick and miserable as a child, I thought I was going to die, so I tearfully grabbed Lu Mengnian's hand, forcing him to promise that his wife could only be me. If I were truly dead, he would not be allowed to seek another." I don't quite remember if Lu Mengnian agreed in the end, but he despised me so much. I suppose he wouldn't remember these things now. I never said it, never said it, never said it. I just find this dream so annoying. I was already planning to keep my distance from Lu Mengnian, so why am I still dreaming about things related to him? Thinking this, I ended up saying it out loud. That person's figure suddenly stiffened. "You don't like Lu Mengnian?" "No. I don't." "Why, don't you like him?" The low, husky voice carried a barely noticeable tremor. I didn't want to respond, feeling only an overwhelming exhaustion. But that person stubbornly insisted on getting an answer, asking over and over again, "Why did Ayu abandon Lu Mengnian?" Because he's utterly boring. Annoyed by the pestering, I closed my eyes and blurted out a random excuse. "I can't say anything, and I can't touch him either. If I get a little closer to him, he immediately backs away." I've ended up looking like some scoundrel harassing an innocent. In the past, whenever I told him something interesting, he would just listen blankly and only respond with an "oh" after a long while, as if saying one more word would cost him his life. Let alone taking the initiative to talk to me. Even a dog I raise knows how to fawn over me. But after all these years, forget about trying to please or get close. Lu Mengnian has never even given me a piece of wood. That lantern a few years ago, I had to pester him just to get it. At first, I just wanted to say a few casual words to brush it off, but my drowsiness was disturbed, and the alcohol started to get to my head. The more I spoke, the more wronged I felt. I simply sat up and started counting Lu Mengnian's wrongdoings one by one on my fingers. In the end, my voice also dropped low. Besides, Lu Mengnian doesn't like me, and I do. The person hastily cut me off. I turned my head in displeasure and was instantly stunned. I think I must have been dreaming far too boldly, otherwise, how could I have seen Lu Mengnian half kneeling by my bedside? The corners of his eyes were red and irritated, as if he had just been crying. He pressed his lips together and whispered earnestly, "I like my wife." No sooner had the words been spoken, a distinct blush spread across the pale side of his face. It really must be a dream. How could Lu Mengnian possibly say he likes me, let alone call me his wife? He didn't even tell me about his return to the capital. I stared at that person with a blank face for a while, then I pulled the quilt over myself and lay down, closing my eyes. The movements were done in one smooth motion. Fortunately, that person didn't continue to bother me. He just held my hand and carefully rubbed it against his. A satisfied sigh escaped his throat. With no one to disturb us, I grew drowsy again, until the person by the bed asked me again in a low voice, "Since you find Lu Mengnian dull, what kind of man would you like him to be?" I turned over. Xiao Huifeng. I wanted Xiao Huifeng to drive away this annoying person in my dream, but I was extremely tired. I only managed to call out a name before falling back into a deep sleep, completely unaware that the person by the bedside suddenly stiffened. A raging fire of jealousy ignited in those usually indifferent eyes. The gaze that fell upon me carried an indescribable stickiness. Only after a long while did he lean down, his lips brushed against my wrist, and he whispered with a soft, aggrieved tone, "You can't abandon me, my lady. Lu Mengnian's deed of servitude is missing." I had originally taken it out and placed it in the small cabinet by the bed, but somehow, it can't be found now. Whatever, anyway, Lu Mengnian is the crown prince, so this deed of servitude isn't really a big deal for him. I quickly put the matter out of my mind, but Lu Mengnian started acting strangely. The most obvious change was, he finally stopped wearing those dull, grey clothes. This person was naturally good-looking, now, with his dark hair neatly combed and tied up in a red jade hair crown. The moon-white robe made him appear even more dashing and elegant. I couldn't help but steal a few more glances. It's amazing how having someone in your heart can make even a block of wood start to care about dressing up. Are you lost in thought? I didn't notice Lu Mengnian had already walked up to me. He was holding something in his hand. I took a few more glances and said in surprise, "Wood carving, Her slightly lowered eyelashes fluttered. Lu Mengnian whispered, "Ayu said she wanted it." "My hands are clumsy. I didn't make it very well. Don't dislike it, Ayu." He began to speak more, but perhaps he wasn't used to saying such things. The words were spoken with several pauses. They were spoken haltingly. I noticed that Lu Mengnian still had small wounds on his fingers, probably from accidentally injuring himself while wood carving. But when did I say I wanted a wood carving? I forced a smile and thanked him perfunctorily. I didn't notice Lu Mengnian's gaze lingering on my hair. He seemed taken aback. "Why is Ayu today, Master Lu?" Sang Yaroro's voice suddenly cut in. Upon seeing me, the smile on her face faltered slightly. Then she ignored me, walking straight towards Lu Mengnian with a smile. "Mr. Lu, I was just looking for you for something." I pursed my lips, barely holding back my annoyance at Sang Yaroro's rudeness. I was just about to take the initiative to avoid her, but I never expected Lu Mengnian to suddenly lose his composure and grab my hand. "Are you?" His Adam's apple bobbed slightly. Lu Mengnian called out to me. Her voice sounded unusually strained. Her gaze carried an inexplicable, unsettling obsession. "That hairpin. Why is it in her hair?" Sang Yaro was wearing a red jade hairpin today. This hair crown was originally a pair with Lu Mengnian's. And this hairpin, it was originally mine as well. I saw it that day when I was looking for the deed of sale. I thought I wouldn't have any use for it in the future, so I simply had it sent to Sang Yaro. I never thought these two would actually use them today. It seems we share a silent understanding. I forced a fake smile. I thought the color suited my cousin well, so I gave it to her. Lu Mengnian stared at me in a daze. He actually looked a little aggrieved. "What about me?" Are you?" A familiar voice sounded from behind. My eyes instantly lit up. Without stopping to consider how strange Lu Mengnian's words were, shaking off his hand, she lifted her skirt and ran backward. Father had returned, recalling these days of poor eating and sleeping, with constant fear and worry. I couldn't help but feel wronged. I clung to Father, unwilling to let go. "What's going on?" Father's smile faded slightly. After glancing at the two people in front, his voice deepened. But who dared to upset my precious daughter? A flash of killing intent appeared, Sang Yaroro's face stiffened, and she instinctively tried to hide behind Lu Mengnian. Yet Lu Mengnian remained silent. Those dark eyes seemed to have lost their usual calm indifference. They stared straight at me, unblinking, restless, uneasy. In the end, it was all fiercely suppressed, turning into a thick, heavy desire, nothing much. Thinking that I couldn't afford to offend either of the two people behind me, I sniffled and said gloomily, "I just miss father too much, ever since mother passed away. Father has set aside all his ambitions and focused wholeheartedly on taking care of me. I've never been separated from father for this long before. Has father taken care of all his matters? Half a month ago, father suddenly said he had urgent business to attend to. He rushed off to another place overnight. Not even I knew where father had gone." Father's gaze inadvertently swept over Lu Mengnian, then quickly withdrew. He raised his hand and patted my head. "Father brought back quite a few things. Would you like to go take a look?" "Yes," I said urgently. But before looking at the treasures, I had something more important to say. I tugged at father's sleeve. "Father, I will be returning to the capital in a few days." Lu Mengnian suddenly interrupted me. That red jade hair crown had been taken off at some point. He knelt straight down toward father. "Kneel," he knelt. "This is the crown prince of the current dynasty." I was so startled that I jolted and turned to look at father, but I never expected father's expression to be extremely calm. "Found your family, understood, then go back." Father smiled, but his eyes were sharp. "Why are you kneeling to me? I wish to ask for your consent on one matter before returning to the capital." "What is it you seek?" "I seek." Lu Mengnian paused. Raising his eyes to look at me, he was clearly still wearing that extremely indifferent expression. Yet the intense emotions churning deep in his eyes were so scorching that I instinctively averted my gaze, but I couldn't figure out where that strange feeling came from. Lu Mengnian never did say what it was that he wanted. He just kowtowed a few times to his father, but with each kowtow, his father's expression grew darker. Finally, with a livid face, he gritted his teeth and cursed. "You worthless scoundrel!" The iron walnut in his hand was hurled heavily at Lu Mengnian. The forehead was injured, crimson blood meandered down the side of the face, finally dripping down drop by drop. Lu Mengnian still knelt upright, as if feeling no pain. "Master Lu." "Father." Sang Yaoyao stepped in front of Lu Mengnian. Her expression was alert. I stopped my father, pleading with him earnestly. "Father, please don't resort to violence, let's talk things out calmly. I have nothing to say to this beast." Father seemed utterly enraged and called for someone. "Get him out of here." "No." I was instantly horrified, because I saw the words that had been missing for days reappear. "The female lead's father is way too ruthless. The male lead is about to get his face ruined. Don't worry." The male lead intentionally didn't dodge. After all, if outsiders see this, they'll know the Xie family treats him poorly. This gives him a legitimate reason to sever ties with them after returning to the capital. The male lead's hidden guards are watching. The Xie family won't be arrogant for much longer. So this was also intentional. My heart turned cold, worried that once Lu Mengnian leaves, those hidden guards would rush out and destroy the Xie family. I gritted my teeth and stood in front of Lu Mengnian. "He's injured. He can't leave, even if he really has to go." "You can't leave with injuries and resentment towards the Xie family." But Lu Mengnian still left. He was taken away by a team of guards who rushed in. The head guard left with a dark expression and harsh words. "The Xie family has hurt his master, and they will surely pay the price." Sang Yaoyao also left with them. "She hates me so much. She's definitely going to take this chance to badmouth me in front of Lu Mengnian." Thinking of Lu Mengnian's identity, I couldn't help but nervously tug at father's sleeve. "Father." Lu Mengnian. I wanted to say that Lu Mengnian is the crown prince. Our family would later face disasters that even father couldn't resolve. I can't let Lu Mengnian hold a grudge against the Xie family. But these words just couldn't be spoken. It was as if something was preventing me from revealing Lu Mengnian's identity, and the secret behind those characters. Thinking of this, my eyes reddened even more with anxiety. But father mistakenly thought I was worried about Lu Mengnian. His previously eased expression tensed up once again. After a long while, he sighed. "Do you really like that Lu boy so much, even after he has done such an unforgivable thing to you?" I looked up at father with tear-filled eyes. I didn't understand what Lu Mengnian had done to make father so angry. I instinctively shook my head. "No," but I never expected father to get even angrier at this point. "You're still lying to protect that boy." "Me? No, father, what on earth are you talking about?" It was hard enough to make father believe that Lu Mengnian didn't do anything to me, But I found it difficult to explain why I no longer liked Lu Mengnian. I didn't want to lie to my father. I scratched my head in frustration. Then, a flash of inspiration struck. I brought father back to the courtyard. When I finally managed to find paper and a brush, I discovered a large crowd kneeling in the courtyard. I froze. Father, my daughter, father, who had been grim-faced, forced a faint smile and spoke gently. Your courtyard is too small. I'll get you a new one. I also bought you quite a few pieces of jewelry and clothes on my way back this time. Throw away all those old ones. Speaking of the end, father's tone was faintly gritted with anger. In the end, it wasn't just the courtyard and the clothes and jewelry that were changed, even the maids and servants around me were all replaced. Especially those few pieces of clothing I loved the most. Father had them burned directly. He personally oversaw it, and from time to time, he let out a cold laugh. Because of this, I lost my temper with father. I ran next door and told Xiao Huifeng how unreasonable father had been since his return. Those people have been by my side for so many years, and father just drove them away without a second thought, showing no mercy at all. And those clothes, so many I haven't even had the chance to wear yet. As I spoke, my heart ached, but unexpectedly, Xiao Huifeng laughed after hearing it. He said meaningfully, "You say your father is unreasonable, but you don't know there are even more unreasonable people out there." I asked who it was, but Xiao Huifeng refused to say. All right then. I sighed but didn't press further, just looking at him with a worried expression. How come your cold hasn't gotten better yet? Are you sure you don't want me to find a better doctor to take a look at you? Xiao Huifeng's face stiffened. Ayu, he hesitated for a moment, as if mustering a kind of desperate resolve. That Lu, a loud bang interrupted Xiao Huifeng's words. I recognized the person who barged in as one of the guards who had taken Lu Mengnian away that day. He glanced at Xiao Huifeng and walked up to me. With an expressionless face, he said, "Miss Xie, the master has fainted." I fell silent for a moment. Then turned to Xiao Huifeng and asked, "What were you just about to say about Lu?" "Nothing much." Xiao Huifeng also wore a wooden expression. "That Dr. Lu is quite good. I think it's the guards in my residence who should be replaced." I looked at the people lying collapsed outside the door. There seemed to be a few guards from the Xie residence inside. I should bring this up with my father when I get back. Of course, provided that I can go back. I never expected Lu Menghui to be so fragile that a single iron walnut from my father could cause his old injury to flare up again. When you see me, he was taken aback at first, and then instinctively panicked and hid what was in hand. Are you, eyes flickering? A hint of guilt hidden within. I pursed my lips. What are you trying to hide? Isn't it just a red dress? I don't like red. I have seen Sang Yaro Yaro wear red dresses a few times though. Those guards must be blind, saying that Lu Mengnian is refusing to return to the capital because of me, and that only I can persuade him to go back. They're talking nonsense in broad daylight. But even though I had long intended to give up on liking Lu Mengnian, seeing Lu Mengnian lying seriously injured on the bed, still holding Sang Yaro's belongings, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness for myself. That day, it was my father who was in the wrong, but thinking of the purpose of my visit, I took the initiative to step forward and whispered an apology. "If you're still angry, let me apologize on behalf of my father." Lu Mengnian suddenly fell silent. I caught a glimpse of the veins bulging on the back of his hand resting on the quilt, fingers suddenly clenched and then released, as if trying hard to suppress something. Surely he isn't so angry that he wants to hit me. I muttered to myself. I heard Lu Mengnian's deep voice. "Would you do anything for AU?" I was taken aback and hesitated. I'm not very good at taking care of people. If you want. I gritted my teeth. Just as I was about to say I could learn, my wrist was suddenly grabbed. The force used was not great, so gentle it could almost be ignored, but the next second, Lu Mengnian suddenly leaned down. An extremely light kiss landed on the inside of my wrist. Then came a sharp pain. It was Lu Mengnian biting a soft piece of flesh on my inner side, his canine teeth gently grinding. A satisfied gasp escaped from his throat. I looked down and could only see his long, straight eyelashes drooping, and the crimson lips. I was so startled that I could hardly speak clearly. Lu Mengnian. Then, "Au, will you stay and keep me company?" Lu Mengnian raised his head and curved his eyes at me. My mind went completely blank. This is definitely not Lu Mengnian. He would never behave like such a scoundrel. So my hand moved faster than my brain could react. Smack. Father smashed the crown prince's head. I slapped the crown prince's face. Question. Is there any chance for the Xie family to survive? But no one could answer that question for me. I watched as Lu Mengnian's head snapped to the side from the slap I gave him. His fallen black hair covered most of the expression on his face. Fortunately, Lu Mengnian didn't seem to mind. Instead, it seemed as if I was the one who got scared. His long, thick eyelashes drooped despondently. He restrained the tremor in his voice and whispered, "Don't be afraid of me." I awkwardly withdrew my hand. "It's not so much fear, just a bit too startling." After a moment of silence, Lu Mengnian suddenly asked, "I don't think I've seen you wear this dress before." I also wanted to skip over this matter. So I quickly replied, "All my previous clothes were thrown away and burned by my father." Lu Mengnian was somewhat taken aback, but he quickly calmed down. "If they're burned, then so be it. They weren't anything valuable anyway." He seemed a bit tired. He then had someone lead me away to rest first, but I had only taken a few steps out of that room. With my keen hearing, I caught the low, muffled groans of Lu Mengnian, occasionally mixed with a few rapid, urgent gasps. Is this person so badly injured? I couldn't help but feel uneasy. It wasn't until the evening that a servant brought new clothes. "Did you bring the embroiderers from the Xie residence along as well?" Looking at the dress with such a familiar style, I asked somewhat blankly. Naturally, there was no reply. Lu Mengnian's subordinate was just like his master. Both were as silent as clams. I wasn't really that angry. After all, even a tiger can be bullied by dogs when it's down. Tomorrow I'll have to find a way to please his master. I sighed. I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep. I opened my eyes wide and stared at the bed canopy for a while, but soon I grew drowsy, in a daze. I thought I had returned to the bedroom of the Xie family's small courtyard. It was the same one as before, although the newly changed courtyard was large and beautiful, but I always feel uncomfortable everywhere. It's not even as good as the place Lu Mengnian arranged for me. If I had to say what's wrong, it's that there are too many bugs here. The next day when I woke up, I had quite a few red spots on my body. My hands were so tired I couldn't even lift them. Perhaps I had been fighting insects all night in my dreams. I thought about it but didn't pay it much mind. It's just that Lu Mengnian's face had swollen even more severely after a night. That glaring handprint made me feel a bit guilty, but he seemed to be in an extremely good mood, especially when he noticed I was wearing the new clothes sent by the servants from his household. It was as if a glimmer of light had fallen into those pitch-black pupils. He was visibly in high spirits. It was extremely odd. I felt somewhat baffled, and I had a vague sense that something was off, especially since I originally thought I was brought here to take care of Lu Mengnian, only to be humiliated by him again. But in reality, I seem to be living more comfortably here than I did in the Xie residence. Because Lu Mengnian doesn't restrict what I do, on the contrary, he indulges me unconditionally. It really seems to be just as literal as it sounds. He just wants me to stay here with him. That was all. The strangeness of that day also seemed to be just my imagination. During the day, Lu Mengnian remained as aloof as ever, but he never refused any of my requests. Even when I wanted to write a letter to my father to reassure him of my safety, he found guards to deliver it for me. Just like in the past, sometimes I even felt a vague sense that Lu Mengnian might not have resented me and the Xie family as much as those words had suggested, until I saw Sang Yaro again. She didn't seem surprised to see me here, only, the look in her eyes held less of the former hostility. There was a bit more sympathy. She sighed. "Xie, you should run away quickly." I was instantly stunned. Sang Yaro said that Lu Mengnian had long promised her the position of crown princess. Otherwise, why do you think he would bring a woman like me, who has no relation to him, back to the capital? I suddenly remembered that those words had been said before. Lu Mengnian had long ago given the token of love to Sang Yaro. I frowned and asked, "But what does this have to do with whether I escape or not? You don't actually think His Highness's current obedience to your every whim means he has feelings for you, do you?" Sang Yaro shook her head in surprise. "Xie, you're still too sheltered by your father, too naive. He has always deeply despised the identity of a child bridegroom brought in for a marriage of fortune, and he finds it utterly humiliating. He wants to take revenge on your father. He wants to make you fall in love with him, preferably to the point of being lovesick and driven to despair." I fell silent for a long while, looking up in shock and indignation at Sang Yaro. "I may be a bit slow, but you can't really treat me like a fool. Just because I used to like Lu Mengnian so much, if only he hadn't been so cold to me, or if he had shown even a little closeness, I would have been completely devoted to him. But look at how he won't even let me touch him now. Occasionally when I run into him changing clothes, he nervously wraps himself up tightly, as if afraid I might catch a glimpse, and you say he's trying to seduce me, to make me fall so madly in love I'd lose my mind," I said in an accusing tone. Sang Yaro also fell silent. After muttering, "So he's not a fool," gritting my teeth, I threw out another huge temptation. "Don't you want to know the truth behind the Xie family's downfall? a single sentence. It successfully calmed me down. What exactly do you want me to do? Those words haven't provided any useful information for a long time. To this day, I still don't know what exactly happened to the Xie family later, nor can I find a way to avoid the disaster. It's simple. Sang Yaro gave me a sly smile. You let Lu Mengnian return to the capital with me. Sang Yaro said that Lu Mengnian treats me differently. Lu Mengnian's subordinates also said so. Lu Mengnian is reluctant to return to the capital because of me. Only I can persuade him to leave. But I always feel that something is not quite right. Why are you the one delivering the medicine today? A slightly hoarse voice pulled me back to my thoughts. Lu Mengnian frowned and instinctively took the medicine bowl from me. Did you burn your hand? I shook my head. I'm not that delicate. But Lu Mengnian didn't believe me. Seeing the slightest redness on my hand, he would rush to apply a thick layer of priceless ointment. I had grown accustomed to Lu Mengnian's care, after all. It has always been this way since I was young. Although he treated me somewhat coldly, he took care of me with meticulous attention. He even did it better than the maids and servants around me. If it weren't for the fact that as we grew older, there had to be boundaries between men and women, I was dazed for a moment. Then I looked down at Lu Mengnian. He pursed his lips, his brow furrowed tightly, carefully cradling my palm. Slender fingertips gently applied the ointment, ensuring it was thoroughly spread, then glided through the gaps between the fingers, leaving no trace untouched, until that speck of red completely vanished. It should have been an extremely proper gesture, yet for some reason, when performed by Lu Mengnian, it inexplicably made one's heart race and cheeks flush. I suddenly remembered that Lu Mengnian had gone about for several days with that swollen red slap mark on his face. A bold and almost unbelievable thought gradually began to surface. I turned my head away in a fluster, but my eyes widened abruptly when I caught a glimpse of a familiar shade of green on the bed out of the corner of my eye. Wasn't that the ugly sachet I gave to Xiao Huifeng? Why is it here with Lu Mengnian? Perhaps my gaze was too intense. Lu Mengnian seemed to sense it and looked up. He paused, then casually shifted his body, just enough to block my line of sight. Enough, Lu, do you like me? Two voices rang out simultaneously. Lu Mengnian's body instantly stiffened. He didn't move a muscle, only his dark eyes stared fixedly at me. I looked up at him and asked again, do you like me? If not, why are you still so accommodating to me? If not, why do you take such meticulous and thoughtful care of me? If you didn't like it, why would you secretly keep the sachet I gave to someone else? I suddenly realized something. It seems that ever since I could see those inexplicably appearing words, I never once asked Lu Mengnian what he thought. I believed those words. Then I became convinced that Lu Mengnian resented me and resented the Xie family, and that in the future, he would turn a blind eye to the disasters that befell me and the Xie family. So it goes, I don't seem to like Lu Mengnian as much as I thought I did. Thinking of this, I felt a bit guilty, yet Lu Mengnian remained silent. I scratched my cheek awkwardly. If it's hard to say, I do. A hoarse voice was suppressed as it spoke. Lu Mengnian spoke almost urgently. I am fond of AU, but then it seemed he felt it was inappropriate. He pursed his lips and awkwardly swallowed, then, somewhat embarrassed, he turned his head away, yet it allowed me to clearly see the earlobe hidden beneath his dark hair, flushed so red it seemed about to drip blood. Lu Mengnian repeated softly, I adore AU. I asked twice. He answered twice. Then the place where our palms touched instantly became burning hot. I instinctively withdrew my hand and changed the subject. The medicine is getting cold. Lu, you should drink it first. Lu Mengnian hummed in agreement. Yet somehow, I could sense a hint of grievance in him. Especially when lifting the medicine bowl, he paused his movement and whispered softly, Ayu wants me to take the medicine. My heart clenched tightly. I didn't dare to meet Lu Mengnian's gaze. I lowered my gaze and forced a light laugh. You have to drink the medicine so you can recover faster, okay? Lu Mengnian raised his head without hesitation and drank it all in one go. Ayu, to my surprise, he suddenly leaned down and kissed the inside of my wrist. The warm, moist tip of the tongue was unusually vivid. An unprecedented tingling sensation shot straight up, reaching deep into the heart. I instinctively tried to pull my hand back, but Lu Mengnian held it with an irresistible force. Then came a sharp pain. It hurt far more than the previous time. I gasped sharply. Yet the culprit who had bitten me looked even more aggrieved than I was. Lu Mengnian nuzzled my hand, his dark eyes hiding a startling desire. He whispered, You have to wait for me. Lu Mengnian, who had fallen into a coma, was carried into the carriage by his subordinates, and he said he liked me. He had planned everything, not forgetting to have someone take Sang Yaro away as well. Meeting Sang Yaro's triumphant gaze, I couldn't help but think sourly to myself, the more I thought about it, the more I felt that Lu Mengnian might be just like me, all talk and no action. Before leaving, I returned the jade pendant to Lu Mengnian, because just the night before, I had learned the root of that disaster. The Xie family was immensely wealthy. Their substantial fortune had long attracted the covetous eyes of the local county magistrate. Thus, through collusion between officials and bandits, the Xie family was destroyed and its members perished. I hurried back to tell father about this matter. But father didn't show any surprise. He just smiled, patted my head, and said with emotion, "My AU has finally grown up. Father, don't worry." Father said he had known about these things for a long time, and had long since prepared a foolproof plan. I was somewhat bewildered. Then father suddenly changed the subject and asked me with a smile, "Does AU want to go to Jiangnan? Mother's home is in Jiangnan. Father said he has wanted to come for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. The Xie family is safe and sound. My father and I are still alive and well. Occasionally, we still receive letters from Xiao Huifeng. The letters say that the local county magistrate has been beheaded, because the officials and bandits were in cahoots. Fortunately, you left early," Xiao Huifeng lamented in the letter. I heard that corrupt official plans to target the Xie family next. Everything matched up with those inexplicably appearing words. The only thing that felt off, I shook my head. Deciding not to think about Lu Mengnian, he had already returned to the capital to become the crown prince, and he had even promised Sang Yao the position of crown princess. Naturally, there would be no further entanglement with me. As for the words asking him to wait, I didn't take them to heart. I began to learn the ways of business from my father, but the results weren't very good. Only one small eatery managed to barely survive under his management. Father had tried his best, but in the end, he faced reality. He decided to find me a live-in son-in-law. I said that's fine. The scholar next door is quite good. The next day, the scholar moved away. Father sighed softly. Just bad luck. I don't know who he was talking about. Later, I took a fancy to the handsome new accountant at the Xie family tavern. But before I could even say a few words, he hurriedly turned me down. "Thank you for your kindness, miss, but I am already married, though it was a child bride promised to me in my youth. I would never be a heartless man, me." Why does this sound so off? Just as I was racking my brains to find the third one, someone stumbled into my little eatery, clutching my leg and sobbing, "Ancestor, please stop." It was Sang Yao, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. I had thought Sang Yao had already gone to the capital in all her glory to become the crown princess. Crown princess, Pa. She didn't care about her image as she gnawed on the chicken leg. She even took a moment to viciously curse Lu Mengnian. "I'm almost squeezed dry by this black-hearted scoundrel." Sang Yao said she wasn't from this world. Her purpose in coming here is to perfect the plot of this world, that is, to serve as the destined female lead who saves the gloomy male lead and assists him in achieving his dominance. Exactly, the bullet comments you saw were actually ones I intentionally let you see. When confessing, Sang Yao felt quite guilty. She said she just wanted me to take the initiative to stay away from Lu Mengnian. That way, she could more easily bring Lu Mengnian back to the capital, and the plot could continue to unfold. The token of love was fake. The promise of the crown princess position was also fake. It was just to make me separate from Lu Mengnian. But who knew the plot had already collapsed? How could it collapse? I was a bit confused. Didn't he take you back to the capital on his own initiative? Taking the initiative, of course, I did. Sang Yao gave a bitter smile. He was purely using me as a tool. Whenever there was danger, he'd use me as a shield, and he even forced me to reveal the plot ahead of time to clear the obstacles in the capital, all just so he could hurry. She suddenly stopped mid-sentence. Sang Yao took a deep breath and gripped my hand tightly. "Dear sister, considering I helped you foresee the danger in advance, please put in a good word for me." This person was crying so pitifully, the surrounding guests were all scared away. I couldn't free my hands, so I could only sigh. "But I can't see anyone either, you can see them." Sang Yao immediately stopped crying, her eyes gleaming as she handed me a sachet. "Just place this under your pillow when you sleep tonight." Sang Yao said I would see Lu Mengnian tonight, but I waited until I was tired and still didn't see him. Fooled again, I thought angrily, but by the late hours of the night, I hazily sensed that there was an extra person by my bedside. I was greatly startled, but before I could react, that person had already, with practiced ease, climbed onto my bed, gently wrapping their arms around my waist. A low, husky, and familiar voice fell upon the ear. "My lady, me, before. It was always Miss or Xiu." It took so much coaxing to finally get him to call me AU, but after saying it, he would purse his lips and turn cold, as if I had taken some great advantage of him. Who's the one who shamelessly called me wife over and over after getting into my bed at night? Who's the one with no shame at all? I held my breath, wanting to see what Lu Mengnian was up to. But I never expected his actions to become increasingly outrageous. Rubbing and pressing against me wasn't enough. He even wanted to use my hand. I used to sleep deeply every night when I lived at Lu Mengnian's place, but my hands would be extremely tired in the morning. I thought it was from fighting off bugs that wore me out. Little did I know, my lady, you're not being good. You clearly promised to wait for me, yet you left without a word, and now you're going to seek out others. Can they serve you as well as I do? Far from being as silent as during the day, Lu Mengnian grew more aggrieved the more he spoke, but soon his tone turned fierce. But it doesn't matter, they won't live long enough to marry the lady. Who are you saying won't live long? I couldn't bear to listen any longer. I grabbed Lu Mengnian's increasingly inappropriate hand, my tone somber. The figure behind me suddenly stiffened. Au. He had returned to his daytime aloofness. I laughed in exasperation. Try pretending one more time. It wasn't the first time Lu Mengnian had climbed into bed at night. He used to do it often back at the Xie residence. Be more detailed. The people around me had long been turned by Lu Mengnian. No wonder father was so angry when he returned. I thought distractedly, she is Lu Mengnian's person. What about those clothes and jewelry? I suddenly remembered that Lu Mengnian was taken away in a hurry that day. Many things were left in disarray. For instance, that piece of clothing on the bed looked very much like a wedding dress. The embroidery technique on it looked very familiar. At the time, I even suspected that Lu Mengnian had kidnapped the embroiderer from the Xie family. And my father was so angry that he wanted to burn those pieces of clothing. Lu Mengnian was so delighted to see me wearing those clothes. I paused for a moment, my gaze unconsciously falling on Lu Mengnian's fair, slender fingers. I suddenly asked, who made all my clothes? My fingers curled up slightly, feeling a bit uneasy. Lu Mengnian's voice was extremely strained. It's me. After receiving this not entirely unexpected answer, my first thought was, is Lu Mengnian, that scoundrel, still embroidering the wedding dress even while lying severely injured in bed? I've tried on that dress. It fits me perfectly. I even said Lu Mengnian never gave me anything. Who would have thought that even the intimate garments and every single item in the bedroom were personally arranged by Lu Mengnian? No wonder I said that place felt so comfortable to live in. For a moment, I felt both embarrassed and annoyed. I said angrily, then why are you always so cold to me during the day? Lu Mengnian pressed his lips tightly together without speaking. His face was pale. After a long while, he finally spoke in a low voice. Ayu, don't dislike me. There was something off about his condition. I frowned, forcefully gripping Lu Mengnian's chin to force him to lift his head. Only then did I realize the corners of his eyes were completely red. He looked at me quietly. In the blink of an eye, tears began to fall silently, dripping onto the back of my hand. Unbelievably scalding. I was suddenly flustered. Why are you crying? Even I, a girl, don't cry as much as he does. You doesn't like those who are too clingy. The fingers beneath the sleeve trembled uncontrollably. Lu Mengnian's voice was very soft, as if trapped in a nightmare. That cat, you doesn't like it. I froze. That cat, I did keep a cat once, but later I grew tired of it. But what does that have to do with whether I like clingy ones or not? Lu Mengnian said that when the cat was first brought to me, it paid me no attention, yet I doted on it all the more. Later, the cat became clingy, but Au didn't like it anymore. If Au finds out that I am such an obsessive person, she will surely grow tired of me. His voice trembled uncontrollably. I never expected it to be for such a reason. Then do you know that the cat already has another owner, and even hurt me for someone else? The so-called clinginess is just the animal's cleverness, trying to please me. I was both angry and amused. Lu Mengnian also suddenly looked up, stunned. The usually aloof and ethereal person stared at me in a daze. Tears still glistened on their eyelashes. So, Au, his fingers suddenly tightened. Lu Mengnian asked hoarsely, Au doesn't dislike this behavior of mine. Before I could speak, he raised his hand to stop me. Au, wait. Lu Mengnian no longer looked at me, his voice growing increasingly calm, yet each word seemed to tear open a scabbed wound, letting the blood flow freely. I want to be close to Au every moment, to do the most intimate things with Au. I want Au's eyes and heart to have only me in them. Sometimes, when I see Au laughing and talking with others, I can't help but wish that person would just disappear. Would Au be scared then? Would she hate it? The last sentence was very soft, so soft that it seemed a single gust of wind could scatter it away. But I noticed Lu Mengnian was trembling, an uncontrollable tremble. He didn't dare to look at me. I thought for a moment, then reached out and held Lu Mengnian's hand. Is it this close? No, even closer. Then if I don't like it, will you force me? No. He suddenly raised his head, speaking each word with utmost seriousness. I will never force AU to do anything she doesn't like. Then why should I fear you? I tilted my head to look at him. Why aren't you calling me wife anymore? I quite enjoyed hearing it. Then all was calm. The gaze, focused to the point of near obsession, fell back on me, without any concealment. Yet that fair and handsome face suddenly flushed bright red. It seems more like I was the one teasing him. Amused by the sight, I tugged at Lu Mengnian's collar and tried to kiss him, but he flinched back in a panic. Are you? No, you mustn't. Why not? I said with a fierce tone. Lu Mengnian regained a trace of reason in his eyes. He turned away awkwardly and whispered, if you regret it, this isn't good, so even if it's unbearably hard to endure. Lu Mengnian only kissed my wrist. But now that we are on the same bed, will others believe we are innocent? After you said such things earlier, will others still believe we are innocent? As soon as the words were spoken, Lu Mengnian's face turned a shade paler. He stammered an apology to me. Unaccustomed to such formality, I boldly took a seat in his lap. I said with a smile, or are you really going to watch me marry someone else? In an instant, the ferocity and possessiveness in Lu Mengnian's eyes could no longer be concealed. Yet it vanished completely the moment our gazes met. I suddenly recalled Sang Yororo's assessment of this person during the day. Hypocrite, it really is. The corners of his eyes gradually took on a faint crimson hue. Lu Mengnian's Adam's apple bobbed, as if he were sighing. Are you is teasing me again? Then I'll find someone else. I made a move to stand up, but Lu Mengnian grabbed my wrist. He rarely showed such fierceness. Don't. The movement was too forceful. An object fell out from his wide sleeve. I quickly picked it up. A chain. Lu Mengnian's face stiffened. I came to my senses. Are you planning to tie me up and take me back tonight? My voice grew louder as I spoke. I thought to myself, if Lu Mengnian really did this, I would definitely be angry. The kind that can't be soothed no matter how you try to coax. But unexpectedly, Lu Mengnian closed his eyes with some embarrassment. No, what? I was a bit baffled. Lu Mengnian pursed his lips. Then, under my astonished gaze, she lowered her head, biting the chain. She bound her own hands little by little. Just perfect. Then, somewhat embarrassed, she began to explain. It's not prepared for a you. I gasped in shock. I wondered what on earth Lu Mengnian had learned after his trip to the capital. The revenge is over. And now I am no longer the crown prince. His dark, somber eyes were fixed intently on me. One end of the chain had already been thrust into my hand. Along with it came a contract of servitude that looked all too familiar. The young man paused, a gentle, watery smile curling at the corners of his lips. He said with utmost seriousness, now, only Lu Mengnian from the Xie family remains. This time, it was my turn to stare blankly at Lu Mengnian. I had always known this man was good-looking, but I never expected that when he smiled, it would be. It's so enticing. I couldn't resist leaning down. I pecked at the corner of Lu Mengnian's lips, which had tightened slightly after he finished speaking, suddenly breaking into a smile. Then do you still have the betrothal gift to marry me? Father said. Even if it's a live-in son-in-law, the betrothal gift cannot be omitted. The Xie family has always been this domineering. The corners of his eyes, which had been raised, reddened once again. But this time, a light falls into the endless darkness, yet it never extinguishes. Lu Mengnian looked up with a smile, indulging my mischief. Ayu, he called my name softly, over and over again. A gasp escaped from the lips. Finally, it turned into a sigh of satisfaction. I have long admired you, my lady. Xiao Huifeng said that Lu Mengnian had taken many things from him. He also injured so many of his guards. The training fees from his childhood are still unpaid. He has to come back and repay them one by one. Now that he's the crown prince, he can't just keep avoiding his debts. Can he? Xiao Huifeng's tone was fierce, and father never kept it from me afterward. He said it was indeed Lu Mengnian who had alerted him to the county magistrate's malicious intentions, but I also put on a show of breaking with him, helping him eliminate some enemies. I owe that wolf cub nothing. That being said, but I know father always looks down on the people I choose. He has sneered more than once. Out of so many people, you couldn't find a single one better than that wolf cub. Truly useless. I shrank my neck, thinking after all, there's only one Lu Mengnian. I knew they were waiting for Lu Mengnian. I knew I was waiting too. Fortunately, I still managed to wait for him. 24. Lu Mengnian's perspective. Lu Mengnian really disliked that girl named Xiaoyu. Noisy, annoying, still incredibly weak. Even though he knew he was saved by Xiaoyu, he also knew he was bought to be Xiaoyu's child bridegroom for a wedding meant to dispel bad luck. but he still detested Xiaoyu. He thought maliciously, why in this world are there still people who can live so naively and happily? Xiaoyu seemed to like him a lot, she always wanted him to accompany her, and she forced him to eat a lot of things, eat well and get strong to avoid getting sick easily, but she eats so much herself, and isn't she still a sickly person? Lu Mengnian found Xiaoyu really annoying, and a little liar. Xiaoyu is sick again, he was beaten again, so why can't Xiaoyu just die? That way he could die sooner too. Anyway, life isn't that interesting. Xiaoyu beat up those kids who bullied him, she said he should have fought back, if anything really happened, she would take the blame. Little liar, clearly, just now you were so scared that tears were welling up in your eyes, saying they would help him fight back, but ended up tripping over themselves when they picked up the stick, crying from the pain while still trying to comfort him. What a fool, I think I just hit my head, could it be that I've become even dumber? He definitely doesn't want to be stuck with a fool. Xiaoyu said she could send him to study, he actually wasn't that keen on going to the academy, I just don't want to keep this girl company, listening to her chatter is really boring. But Lu Mengnian heard that Xiaoyu, in order to get her father's approval, agreed to do many things she disliked, like practicing calligraphy, like embroidery. What girl could prick her fingers so much from embroidery that they look like carrots? Xiaoyu came to him again, crying and whining, saying she needed him to blow on it to make it better. Lu Mengnian really didn't want to do such a childish thing, so he looked at the one who started it all, frowning. He thought, is embroidery really that difficult? Embroidery isn't difficult at all. It's simply because Xiaoyu is very foolish, so incredibly foolish, he has already learned it. The book was burned, he was punished again, but for the first time. Lu Mengnian didn't have the malicious thought that it would be better if Xiaoyu died, he just stared blankly at the flames, thinking to himself, it turns out Xiaoyu is so dependent on him. Later, he received the book again, and the old scholar selflessly answered his questions without expecting anything in return. So foolish, did she really think he didn't know who sent it? But Lu Mengnian was annoyed, because of the book-buying errand. Xiaoyu had been spending a lot of time with that Xiao family kid again, he really didn't like Xiao Huifeng at all. Lu Mengnian had a dream, in the dream, he was the male lead of this world, but Xiaoyu was merely a supporting female character. In the dream, he did not like Xiaoyu, even later, he coldly watched Xiaoyu being tortured to death. How could that be? Lu Mengnian felt that this dream was truly absurd, because Xiaoyu wasn't bad at all, just foolish and silly. How could he possibly dislike Xiaoyu? It wasn't until later that Sang Yao Yao entered the Xie residence, and in that dream, there was also a female protagonist named Sang Yao Yao. Lu Mengnian would fall in love with Sang Yao Yao. Xiaoyu will die. Ha, what a joke, Lu Mengnian thought coldly. Then, without any expression, he stabbed his own arm fiercely with a knife, as punishment for losing control after seeing Sang Yao Yao today. He is the master of this body. Hiding Xiaoyu's clothes was discovered. Xieming was furious. He almost beat him to death, but Lu Mengnian knelt upright, then slowly, he kowtowed to Xieming. He thought maliciously. Worse was yet to come. Lu Mengnian had developed an addiction, only to Xiaoyu. He couldn't suppress the desire to touch, wanted to hold Xiaoyu, wanted to be close to Xiaoyu every moment, wanted Xiaoyu to see only him, gradually descending into madness and obsession. But all of this ended when Xiaoyu stopped liking that cat. Ayu doesn't like clingy things. So all desires and yearnings were suppressed. Lu Mengnian thought, what kind of person does Ayu like? Then he would be that kind of person, as long as Ayu likes it. Lu Mengnian's heart belongs to Xiaoyu, he wants his Ayu. May every year be free from worries, may every year be peaceful and healthy.